Okay, hi. I realised that a whole week's gone past and I didn't do this, and I said I was. So we're looking at how can you use watercolours and some basic ideas that you can just try. So first up, one thing that I didn't mention the other day was about paper. Now you can use just normal paper, but when you're using things like that have got a lot of water in them, just to play, you'll find that it'll just fall apart. So getting half decent paper is really helpful. So, I mean, this is ones that I like to use, the Strathmore mixed media journals, because they're really lovely, like 300 GSM. So GSM is how thick your paper is and how, I guess, water retentive it can be. So it means that you can put as much into a mixed media water-based paper, you can put in as much water as you want and it won't fall apart. Whereas if you get a normal everyday sheet, you'll find that it just, after a little bit, it just falls apart. So we don't necessarily want to do that. If anything of your materials, probably the paper is one of the ones that you really want to try and spend a little bit of money if you can. It just does make a big difference to what you do. Okay, so there was a few things that we talked about the other day. We might want to put the camera down to my drawing pad so you can see. And all right, so we have your basic watercolor pencils. These ones, you can get them anywhere pretty much. Supermarkets have them. And it's just a matter of almost like you could color in anything. But say if you were to do a section and have it going into another color, because we do like our colors going from one color to the next. Over to the blue. So it comes out like normal drawing pencil and normal coloring in stuff. So with now what I do is I take a brush with that and I can come in and give it a bit of water, and it starts to give it a little bit more of a painted feel. So you can see there that it starts to, hopefully you can see that sort of clearly. So just really, and depending on how much water, you could do a wash on the background. Like if you like pretty things, you could do like a whole wash. So we talk about washes when you just add a lot of water and then the watercolor. So that's very basic, easy step. And you can do really dark as well. Like if you line something, because you can come and work over the top of this once it's dry. I wouldn't put the watercolor pencils onto the water. Some people tend to dip them in and then work them, but I find that it tends to make the pencil not work really well. So if I was wanting just to have something a little bit darker and have a very clear sort of space, you can come back and just take the paint away from that edge, but it still leaves it a nice bit of color. So you get a bit of a line happening. So that's one way. And usually you find that these ones come with a brush as well. So it saves you having to go and look for brushes if you don't have any. Okay, so that's one. Now the next one is your basic palette. So you get this at any store as well, kids ones. And like I said last time, it doesn't really matter the quality. It's more, it all still works. A good idea to have with watercolor too is a little palette or a little plastic plate will do that you can mix your colors in. Because what happens with watercolor is that if you just dip into your brush in there, when you don't have a lot of water and you've just wet that, you actually get a really dark color. Now the idea of watercolor is that it's a little bit washy. So you can bring it in and then just add more water. Now the more water you add, that's how you lighten the colors. So that's how you add light in watercolor. You don't actually try to just do blocks of really dark colour because it won't work that way. So you can see that, and if you want it even darker, you can bring in another colour. And these ones, you know, they're $5, $6 and they'll last for ages. There's even ones that you can get for travelling. So if you're really into travelling, you could do something. So see, you can add another colour over the top. So that's two things. Now the other thing you can do, if you're still just colouring in something, is to actually, you can wet an area. So I'm just wetting around in a bit of a circle, lots of water. And this is fun because what you do is you just let your paint go where it will. So say let's do our yellow. So you do it really heavy so that you get a fair bit of paint, but you can just dip it and you'll find that it'll start to move around, especially if you move it. You can keep adding water too, even flicking. Let's add some orange to that. So you get these really interesting flowy things. So if I added that much water to a normal piece of paper, it would just suck up the water and not actually let the paint spread. So that's good. Now with colours too, if I was to, see how you're getting some nice interesting things happening with leaving those two colours together. If you add, so say if I came along and I wanted to add some blue, I'm going to end up with some greens and maybe some purples, but I'm more likely to get browns because when you mix up three colours that are your primary colours, so your yellow, your red and your blue, you get brown. So you can always add it up and see what happens because it's always good to experiment. So there you go. That's just a few little tips on, see how I can just make it now move around and you might get some really interesting sort of effects. Okay, so that's for today. Something you can try anywhere. You can do it with just about any bit of equipment that you've got and just try it for fun. So see how you go and let me know.